Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me, as usual, Alistair McKenzie. We have to talk about Lazio Crotone, the last match of Lazio in Serie A. What happened in the weekend? Because there are a lot of results that affected Lazio many ways. And then, obviously, Wednesday, there's maybe the last Champions League match for Lazio this season, at least. Alistair, can we say that?
I like that you're still optimistic enough to say maybe.
It's football, you never know.
Yeah, we just need a Patrick hat-trick, and we'll be right back in the running with that one. If we can only just beat Crotone, then why shouldn't we be confident of beating the world champions by more than 3 goals away?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we struggle against Crotone, and I really don't know. I mean, Crotone have been struggling for all year long, and they play against Lazio and they score 2 goals. I don't know last time when Crotone scored twice. And again, Caicedo find the way to score in the last minutes. Otherwise, we will be here talking about a terrible draw, Alistair.
Yeah, and it did look like it was heading that way, almost to the point where I had almost resigned myself to it by now. And I'm like to think I'm a fairly optimistic football fan. I don't give up on the team as soon as they go behind, but it just felt so familiar, the whole thing, the way that they were missing the chances that they took and the way they surrendered the 2 goals that they gave away. I just thought, I've seen this film 1,000 times, and it always ends the same way. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and we've got Caicedo to thank, like you say. But for me, Vittorio, like I said just before we came on, it's probably the most negative I've felt after a win in a long time that I can remember. Because against the worst team in the league at home, to perform that way and need that last 5 minutes goal to actually get a win, it's not very encouraging.
Yes, I agree with you, and this is surprising. But just to give a little bit of spark and joy in this podcast, I think Friday before Lazio Crotone, I was talking with a friend of mine, a Roma fan, and he said, Roma will never lose against Parma. I mean, Parma is a disaster. This will never happen. And Alistair, I don't remember how the match finished.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, they've Parma helped us this weekend to feel a bit better, didn't they? I mean, that was amazing. 2-0 win for them, and they had gone 17 games without a win, which that run going back to November. So it was, I would say, one of the most surprising results of the season so far, just because Roma have had this habit of beating all the small teams, like your friend was saying. Yeah. So, you're right. That's a huge result for Lazio as well as for Parma.
And the other thing, as you were mentioning, Patrick, can we say that we were very close to a disaster signing Kumbulla? I mean, 28 millions, and every match he plays, he's bad. He's terrible.
Well, yes, but if you consider that who we signed instead was Wesley Hout and Matteo Musacchio, I don't know if we can really start doing that. But I mean, it does go to show, I guess, that there's no such thing as a sure thing, really, when it comes to spending that amount of money. It's not just Terry who's got it wrong. I mean, he is a young player, he might come good still. But yeah, I mean, that helps, and obviously with that happening, and I think also we have to mention Napoli beating Milan, because now all of a sudden what looked like being a season where the top 2 were kind of pulling away from the rest, and there might be 1, max 2 Champions League places available. All of a sudden, if Lazio win their game in hand, there's 7 points between 7th and 2nd place. And Milan have obviously been hitting a bit of a rut since the turn of the year, not been performing as well, lots of injury problems. And suddenly, this European race, I still think Lazio are nowhere near finishing the top 4 with the way they're playing. But it's amazing because all these teams have problems now from second to seventh, and the gap is so small. So it's really going to be about who finishes the strongest.
You see, you're optimistic because when I saw Napoli beating Milan, I was, disappointed because I was hoping in a draw because now Napoli is back, and I was nearly convinced that Napoli wouldn't fight for the Champions League position this year. Instead, they're there, and now, yes, it's true that Milan is losing points, and I think we talked about it already. I think there's a chance that Milan finish out of the top 4 position, but I was hoping that Napoli would have collapsed. Instead, this win changed everything. And, for me, at the moment, I feel like Roma and Lazio are the team that's going to miss on the Champions League. I see Atalanta there, definitely, if nothing huge happens. And now with Napoli in the mix, I don't know if this is a good result for Lazio.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You can see it both ways. I just, the feeling I get is that for Lazio to stand any chance, we want there to be as many places available as possible. So it's kind of in Lazio's interests for Inter to just run away with the title and the rest of the teams to be scrapping it out. I think that, now that Juventus are out of Europe, that's not going to help because as well as them obviously having fewer matches now, I think that's given them this real determination, this real fire, because they got so much criticism from that game against Porto to actually finish the season really strongly. So I feel like it's more likely Juve will push away into the top 2 than Milan. But yeah, I think that the more open it is, the better, because then it really is just about how well you finish. And there are opportunities still because there are head-to-head matches between Lazio and some of these teams still to come. So it's just, away from your sunny optimism, it's just hard to see this for me because I said before this match against Crotone, if Lazio are going to turn around this form, they have to start with a good performance against the worst team in the league. And yes, they got the win, but it wasn't a good performance. Like, I thought for once, once Lazio went in front, I thought for once maybe we can have a comfortable win here. And get a couple of goals and make some substitutions, rest some players, but no, of course not. And it was just another performance for me riddled with mistakes. Obviously some good things in there. Milinkovic-Savic played very well. Luis Alberto scoring again. But the defensive errors were horrible. Ciro was really out of form again. And I'm actually pretty worried about Wednesday now.
Well, we are pretty much already out. I know what you mean. By the way, there is Napoli-Roma this weekend, so another head-to-head that could come handy for Lazio. Obviously, Lazio has to win their match. Going back to Lazio-Crotone, Alistair, a couple of points. We got pretty much all the same questions, right? As usual, I would say. I think in the last month, all Lazio fans are asking the same thing. You're playing against Crotone, and Inzaghi again didn't do any sort of turnover. We were expecting Strakosha to start, Reina start, and I didn't think he played well. We were hoping to see Musacchio. We signed Musacchio for nothing because Patrick is starting every time. Midfield, pretty much the same thing. Luis Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic, Leiva, nothing changed there. Same thing on front, Correa and Ciro Immobile. I don't understand why. And the other thing is, what happened to Caicedo? Because last year, one of the secrets of this team was Felipe Caicedo. He started a lot of matches. He decided a lot of matches. Since the Roma derby, he didn't start a single match. Yes, maybe he wasn't 100% fit, but Ciro as well is not 100% fit, and he's starting all the matches. What's going on?
Well, I think he was asked about that after the game, wasn't he? And he basically said, where it's my role in the team is to be a kind of super sub. So I don't know. I mean, it must be tough for him because by now he has a right to feel like he deserves to be given a chance. There was a time when he was kind of rotating with Correa, and they would go in and out of the team to partner Immobile. But yeah, like you say, it's been a while. To be fair, he's not done an awful lot when he's come off the bench recently until this game, I would say. But yeah, it's just, we've said this before, but it must be quite demoralising to be one of those Lazio fringe players at the moment, because you're getting, 5 minutes, 10 minutes off the bench. That was the thing that frustrated me above all on Friday, was how predictable the whole thing was. Every single aspect of it was predictable. We could have written the script to this match before it started. I mean, not just the selection and the lack of rotation and the same old players playing, but then when he decides to make a change, it's Lulic and Escalante who are coming on. You're thinking, where's the spark coming from that? And then the only attacking changes that are made, I think, were with about 10 minutes to go or something. So the substitutions were as predictable as the approach and as the starting 11 and as how the game went, really.
The thing that I don't understand is, normally when things don't go as expected, every type of manager, rotate, change players, change formation, change something. Inzaghi, and it's not only this year, also in the last years with Lazio, he always sticks with the same 3-5-2, same players. How can you expect something to change when you keep it with the same players, same formation, and nothing changes, right?
Yeah, well, we get a lot of questions about this. One of the ones we had this time was Kiki Adisaputra said, do you think Inzaghi will ever play other than 3-5-2 before he gets sacked? Or will he keep playing 3-5-2 until the end of the world? And I think it's got to the point now where that question's fair enough. I mean, it's not something I think we can really expect him to do from the start in any matches anytime soon, I would say. He has adapted now and then during matches, but it tends to be when things are always a bit desperate, and he's doing it as a last resort rather than a kind of pre-planned tactic. So I find it quite unlikely.
Yeah, the funny thing I don't understand is that he started as a manager using 4-3-3. He used it all for the Primavera Lazio, the first year with Lazio as well. So I really don't understand why he switched definitely to the 3-5-2. One thing, Alistair, we were all expecting Strakosha to start. And one of our patrons, David, asked us, why didn't Strakosha start? When he's going to start? Because even if Lazio doesn't want to keep him, if he doesn't play, then the value of the player is going to decrease. And instead of maybe selling him for 30 million euros, you're going to be forced to sell him for 10, 15. So you're going to lose a lot of money. And again, people say that I've been too hard. But the first goal of Crotone, I thought Reina could have done better.
Well, I think Acerbi has a lot to answer for that one as well. And that gets overlooked, I think, a bit with because there are so many places to point the finger with this Lazio defence, with whether it's Reina or whether it's Muzaki or Patrick or Hout or whoever it is, that Acerbi's he's got enough credit in the bank that people don't really look to him so much. But Acerbi has made a lot of mistakes of his own recently. He's not really been the same player since the turn of the year that he has been previously for Lazio. And I think for Lazio to defend well, they need Acerbi to be defending and leading well, because he's the only top-class defender that Lazio really have, with the potential exception of Felipe and Radu, but those two are just constantly injured. I mean, Radu, we should say, made a good impact coming back, because he was Lazio's most creative player. That comes into the team, immediately provides an assist, sets up another good chance for Milinkovic-Savic later in the game, and you can immediately see that he's used to the team. So, I mean, like I said on Twitter at the time, although I was very happy to see him back, I was also a bit worried that Lazio, there's such a big difference and such an obvious kind of dependence on a 34-year-old injured centre-back to be performing for Lazio to do well.
But again, you mentioned Musacchio twice in this podcast. How can we rate Musacchio if he's never playing? I mean, yes, he made a mistake against Bayern Munich, and no one's we saw it. It was evident. But I remember a lot of mistakes from Patrick, and still every single match he starts with Patrick. So, Alistair, why? If Musacchio or Strakosha make up mistakes, they're done. They never start again. If Reina or Patrick make mistakes, they still have a chance next weekend to restart again. I don't understand.
Yeah, no, it is strange, and I think we're can be guilty of that as fans as well. In that, Musacchio, like you say, made the mistake, and automatically can start getting written off as being yet another injury-prone defender. And look, there's a reason that Lazio fans automatically go to that, because we've been here before with players like Wallace, Bastos, Mauricio, Gentiletti, Bishevac, whoever the hell it is that we've had over the years, have kind of had a couple of decent games, and then suddenly the errors start coming. So it's not actually very little to do with Musacchio so much as Lazio fans kind of PTSD, where they're just terrified of having yet another defender in the same mold as all these guys who've come before. But I think you're right. I think he made a mistake, but he does deserve to have a chance to kind of correct it, which he's not getting.
Yep. No, that's. I mean, we signed him in January, and play the guy. Why did you sign him if he's never playing? This doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. I mean, you got it for some reason to play, because Luis Felipe is out. Luis Felipe is back in Germany. I don't think he's gonna be able to play before the end of the season. So really, you don't have that many options. The other thing we were talking about was the substitution. I was honestly astonished to see Leva coming out. Again, no yellow card from Leva. And again, Inzaghi, first substitution he makes is Leva out and Escalante in. We can talk that Escalante, that the Caicedo's goal is from Escalante shooting from outside the box. But again, I didn't think Leva was playing that bad, right?
No, but that's what I mean when I said earlier that everything's so predictable, is that it's almost like autopilot. That's just what he does. At that stage of the game, he'll replace a wing back and Lucas. That's just what happens. And it doesn't really matter, Vittorio, like what's happening in the game, what the score is, how the game's going. That's just the time of the match that happened. And it's so predictable, and it's so easy to see. But it's like how it used to be, I guess, with Lukaku. Jordan Lukaku would come on same time every game. Or it would be Lukaku and Murgia or Lukaku and Cataldi, and it's always been the same kind of thing. But that's the most frustrating thing. I mean, we've had loads of comments here about this frustration with the lack of rotation, and we've talked about it a lot. But beyond that, probably the most frustrating thing is the fact that it's not just that he's not being experimental with the team he's picked from the start. It's the team that he's picking during the match. He's not even taking any risks or making any interesting decisions while the match is happening.
And I thought Crotone was the perfect team to start Murici, because we saw them. They defend with 11 men if possible, and Lazio couldn't use the type of football they love, like going deep with Ciro Immobile. We saw a lot of cross in the box. That is typical football for Murici. And again, that was the perfect chance for Inzaghi to play Murici, and we didn't see him. And then he goes and says, no, but the team, we have a lot of depth this year, quality, etc. But he hardly played them. So I don't know what to think. At the same time, I don't want to appear like someone who hates Inzaghi. I still think he's a good manager, but probably staying so long in the same club, we are starting to point out too often his mistakes. And they're pretty much clear, right, this season.
Yeah, and we're both very supportive of Inzaghi and want him to stay, and we always have been. But the point is that we've made before, that this is probably his biggest weakness or his biggest defect, is this stubbornness and this complete unwillingness to change his ways. And when things are going badly, it does become very frustrating, because I think as fans, what you want to see is a reaction, a response to things going badly. You want to see something, I said this in the last podcast, that they might well be changing things, changing the way they train, or changing their preparation for match, or putting more effort into video analysis. Or there might be all sorts of things we don't know about going on in the background. But unless you actually see something in front of you that shows you that this team is trying to find an answer to its problems, then it's going to be hard to believe that that's really happened. And so far, it's been, same tactics, same substitutions, same players, and the performances haven't really improved as a result. I mean, there was an interesting comment we got. Steven Scarpula on Twitter said, "I'll be in the minority here, but I was impressed to see Inzaghi taking off Ciro and Correa at 2-2 in a game that we needed to win. That is a small step for our stubborn mister." Do you agree with that? You think that's a sign of progress?
Well, I thought that Ciro played a good first half, but disappeared in the second. And I don't know, Correa didn't show up even in the first half, to be honest. But playing against Crotone, playing so deep, I think Correa and Ciro Immobile would have struggled anyway. So I think Inzaghi realized, if I keep them on the pitch, we won't have a chance to win. So yeah, I mean, Inzaghi is not stupid. I think he realized that. I would say it was too late. I mean, I would have done that substitution at the end of the first half, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it's a big sign of him, breaking his stubbornness. I think it's more a sign of him just doing what he tends to do when recently we've been up against it, and just kind of chucking everyone on at once and saying, "All right, see if this works." Which we've seen a few times, the kind of all-out attack mode, just see what happens.
Talking about changes, Alistair, Wednesday there is Bayern Munich. Do you think Inzaghi should rotate the team, play the best team available? What's the idea? And why, most of all?
Yeah, well, I think absolutely Lazio have to play their strongest side. I think although the tie is beyond them, they still have a lot to take from this, which is a massive Champions League knockout game, which is something Lazio haven't been involved in for over 2 decades. Against the best team in the world, it's a way of these players challenging themselves, and also a way of these players trying to show the rest of the football watching world that they're better than what we saw in the first leg. I think that it's unlikely they're going to turn around this tie, to say the least. But if they can put in a respectable performance, or even get a result like even a draw, I think they'll leave the competition with their heads held high. When you consider that they got through the group stages unbeaten, despite the COVID absences, the injury problems that they had, to get through that group unbeaten, beating Borussia Dortmund, beating Zenit, and then to go out to Bayern Munich is no disgrace by any means. A lot of teams, bigger teams than Lazio, have lost by bigger scorelines than Lazio did against them. So I think it's a chance to say to Europe, here we are, we're much better than you think we are, and we'll see you next year. That's an opportunity to do that, but it's hard to see that being the outcome as things stand.
I would be really happy to be back in Champions League next year, but it looks very hard for me at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I think Lazio is forced to play the best team available. And I think that Inzaghi is forced to play Ciro, because Ciro against Lewandowski, right? I would try to rotate a little bit some players. Maybe Caicedo start, maybe give a chance to Pereira. Maybe Musacchio again. I don't know. But yeah, I think we are not talking about, scoring 4 goals and go through, but maybe draw or don't lose with more than 3 goals. That would be quite a good performance. No.
I think that we shouldn't underestimate the importance of Radu coming back, because I think that yes, his pace is something to be worried about given what we saw in the first leg, but just the experience and the calmness and the leadership that he can help that side have should help, as well as having obviously a natural left-sided player on the left, which is where Masaccio started the last game. So I feel a lot more comfortable, say, with a back three of Masaccio, Acerbi, and Radu in that kind of order than I did with the defence we started with last time. Obviously, the issue might be if we don't have Lazio. It seems a bit unpredictable at the moment whether or not Lazio will be fit, but I'd say he was Lazio's best player in the first leg, and it would be a big loss not to have him available for that game. But I mean, it's the question of should we play the best team is a slightly odd one in a way, because we're just kind of debating just before then what the best team actually is. Because if you mean by the best team the same team that Inzaghi keeps picking, we can't really say, yeah, we need to play that team after just criticising him for not changing any of the players who are underperforming. So I'd like to see Strakosha back. I'd like to see Masaccio and Radu in the defence, and otherwise stick with how it is, I'd say.
Yeah, Alistair, before wrap it up, rumours are that Lazio is thinking about signing Ranocchia next summer. Now, Ranocchia, a lot of people saying, Ranocchia, Inter, he has experience, etc. He started 4 matches this season. 4. We are in half of March. 4 matches. Crotone, Benevento. I don't remember the last 2, but they are bottom half teams. It's definitely no. I prefer Wesley Hood or whoever you want instead of Ranocchia. Do you agree?
He's the Inter Masaccio, basically. That's basically
but
what
3 years older.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the one thing I do like about Ranocchia is that on occasion he's been played as a striker. And you know how I feel about centre-backs playing as strikers. So I do quite like that option. No, I think that if you're going to sign a player like Ranocchia, you have to be very clear on what you're signing him for. Is he being signed to bolster the squad and give you better depth? Because if he's there as a backup to Acerbi, for example, fine. You've got an experienced Serie A centre-back who can rotate out with Acerbi. But if you're bringing him in to actually say, okay, Ranocchia is now our starting centre-back, I just think that lacks a bit of forward planning and isn't really improving the team all that much. But we'll see if it actually gets anywhere first.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't. Anyway, Alistair, thank you again for joining me. It's a very busy week, guys. I don't know if you know, but Rome is in lockdown, so it's quite complicated for us. We're going to be back Wednesday because after Bayern Lazio, probably if we're not going to lose 7-1, we're going to go live probably. So keep an eye on our social platform for any update. And again, as usual, you can listen to our podcast on iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, and in general, wherever you listen to your podcast. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you like the pod and want to support us, we have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. Thank you again, Alistair, and we are going to talk soon.
Cheers.